To the last speaker of the day. So she's a lady who is working in a Silicon Valley-based SaaS brand. She's in the marketing technology space. And she's going to throw light on a very real-world issue. What the issue is, the giant tussle between the product and engineering teams. And she will guide us as to how to find a middle ground in this pursuit of the tussle between the engineering and the product teams. So welcome, Ms. Ritika Chugh. Okay, she's coming, just the mics are being put on. Welcome, Ritika. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Technical glitch. Okay, thank you, NASSCOM. You guys put this great event together. I think we have a lot of leaders, aspirants, all of them under one roof. It's fantastic. And I'm so glad all of you guys joined us today. I'm going to talk about product versus engineering, the epic relationship. Hands up. I mean, how many of you guys have this relationship with your engineer? There you go. A lot of us. Me too. Me too. We continue to do that. Yeah, I mean, there's that eternal tussle. And if this is the kind of relationship that you have, then maybe I have a thing or two that I can share with you guys. That's a little bit about me. I think he's already given you enough there is to know about me. I continue to evolve myself as I play all these different roles. And I work with a company that does a lot of MarTech search products. My entire team is here, and we help folks get higher and higher on search through our SaaS platform. So as a PM, I think we're working with the best. We work with technologists. We work with data analysts. We work with engineers. They're the best in the industry that you can work with. And what does that good working relationship look like? It really means seamless communication. You're understanding your customer needs. You're probably building, shipping, and delivering on time. And then you're all living on as a happy team. I think it's far from reality. Do you guys agree? I mean, in reality, it's messy. Specifications change. You're constantly dealing with scope creeps. And product and engineering, like poles apart, always in their own dynamic worlds, doing their own things. So reality is definitely different. So how do you really bridge this gap, and how do you get them to be cohesive and work together? Let's understand a little better. This is what my team looks like. That's my team product manager. She's a super passionate PM. Her name is Aparna. Aparna's right there. And she's doing what she does best. She is trying to convey the vision of the product and get buy-in. That's Tina. She is the software lead, the team lead. And she doesn't quite trust Aparna, but she's not being vocal about it. She's not being vulnerable. And what we have here is absence of trust. That's Dinesh. Dinesh is the engineer, and he is afraid to talk. He thinks there's a lot of specification, a lot going on. There's a bandwidth issue, a resource crunch, but he fears conflict. He's not going to talk about it. That's another engineer. His name is Prakash. He lacks clarity. And you're never going to get commitment from Prakash because, if you lack clarity, then commitment is basically a function of clarity and buy-in. So you're never going to get commitment from Prakash here. That's James. He's our designer, and he has zero accountability. I think I got all of them. And there was one more. And there was Ami. Ami was also one of our QA, and she was consistently delivering poor results. So that's what my team looks like. And what I think is a very dysfunctional team. And I've personally lived through this. We have teams like this. I guess we all do. Let's look at this through the lens of Patrick Lencioni. I don't know how many of you guys read that book. I'm sure you guys have, but it's a great book. What Patrick Lencioni is this best-selling New York Times author, and he authored this book called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. MBA students, I'm sure it's a part of your curriculum, I'm sure you know now. But what he says and believes is that issues at the higher level cannot be resolved if you do not address the lower level needs. So if you have this highly dysfunctional team, you need to identify the dysfunction and work through them. Like I said, I highly recommend all PMs read this. For me, it was like an eye-opener, a great takeaway. Now, in the earlier slides, we've already established that I have a very dysfunctional team. What am I going to do about it? Let me try to narrate this through my own story. I have my own product story, and I lived through this with my team. So maybe we can just go through that, and that'll be insightful enough. So in 2020, when COVID happened, businesses were going more and more digital. And we saw the potential with this one product that was sitting in the proof of concept stage for the longest time. This was a product that would help the search engines identify your site. It like builds a knowledge graph for you. And what it does is give context to machines, because as Google and all the engines started telling us that, hey, machines are now indexing your site, we had to come up a way to leverage your vocabulary and make sure that we can give more context to the search engines. So a no-code platform that we took from POC to the MVP and made a full-blown SaaS product out of it. In the first year after we launched the product, we got awards for US Search Awards for being an innovative product. We followed it up with Adrian Awards, and we started getting recognized for really empowering businesses so they can manage their visibility. And it sort of became like a groundbreaking product for us. Also, the second revenue generating product in 2021. So, this for us, and today we have some of the biggest brands worldwide using this product. This for us was victory. This for us was like winning the Olympic. But I'm sorry, I think I'm skipping a few slides over here. Yeah, so over and above the numbers, what we were able to bring was the impact, was the actual visibility in search. This is a real life case study for a client that we work very closely with. And when we wanted to launch this product, we really had to make sure that we're able to create enough alignment. We were able to get folks together, and the hardest part was bringing alignment in the team. So how did we do it? We really wanted teams to work in tandem. We really wanted them to build that groundbreaking product, and it would really not have been possible if we didn't go through these 7 steps. This sort of became our Bible, and now as we go through different product launches, we make sure we're spending enough time reflecting on all of this. The earlier speaker, Riaz, was talking about his product launch and what not to do, and I could totally map it to all of these, all of my 7 steps and where the disconnect is. I'll spend some time on each of these. The first one, the first one is developing the mindset, and I mean the product engineering mindset. And only if you do that can you co-create together, which means that take your engineers and make sure that you bring them in and involve them in the complete life cycle of the product. It's very important that you develop that product engineering kind of a mindset. Now, once you do that, you'll see that they're able to make more data-driven decisions, tell them about your customer, your products, and co-create with them. Brainstorm with them. Make sure that you encourage them to come up with innovative solutions. That's the way to go. You need to co-create with them. Now, developing a mindset also applies both ways, because a lot of times we've actually seen that product team itself also needs a change in view, a change in mindset. For example, a couple of weeks back, we were witnessing the sprint demo, and the product manager who was actually demoing it was more like an advocate of the engineering team. He was more the voice of the team who built it rather than being the voice of the customer, which is not the way to go. You really need to make sure that as a PM, you're always the voice of your customer. So that's one very important thing that, when you consider your mindset and co-create. The second one, be clear and prioritize. This is my favorite because this is something that you completely can control. When I say be clear, I mean clarity, clarity in ownership, clarity in the way you write your specifications, clarity in the life cycle of every feature. That's super critical. When we say specifications, start with the problem statement. Make sure you hone in on your personas, the user journeys. If you're not clear about the different user journeys, when a new user comes in, when a repeat user comes in, you have to carve it out, you have to show it end to end to your team. And then the acceptance criteria, that's the most important thing. We have a very unspoken rule that PMs in our company, PMs do not sign off on any QA item. That can't be me. Any QA item if you do not, if it doesn't meet the acceptance criteria. And the acceptance criteria has to be crystal clear in the PBI, in the backlog item, whatever you're drafting. Make it a point to make sure your acceptance criteria is right there. Prioritization. All of this will follow. It's sort of a subset of that, right? If you have clarity, then you will have a way to prioritize better. And make sure that the roles, the responsibilities are very clear. You have several frameworks out there, right? Use your AC framework. Know that who's responsible for what. There's always confusion around that, so get that out of the way. Third is communicate. Hardik was the one who said that getting people with cultural differences or people from different geographies to communicate. Somebody over here said that, but that's very important. I think this is the toughest. Getting people to communicate, especially engineers, is always been a challenge. So make sure that you have the speak up culture. Make sure you encourage people to talk, and setting up that war room helps. We started doing that a lot. You just get people into one room, you facilitate conversation, you encourage them to talk, to fight, to debate, come up with their risk mitigation, how will they report, get them together and get them to communicate. Now, communication also means that you as a PM should know what to talk, which means that you will be talking technical sometimes. People are very divided on this, right? PM should not talk technical, should not get into that, it's not our domain. You need to know enough to talk technical. You don't need to help them with their technical implementation, but you need to know what to talk. You need to go back and ask them, what's my fallback? What happens if my vendor API fails? How are you dealing with the transient errors? All of that is going to come here with 3. You need to learn how to communicate. Another part over here, which is very clear, with talking, with communicating comes clarity, because when you go with a spec to an engineer, what I hear today is, hey, I just want to use a deep learning model to build this. You don't need deep learning models for everything. It's a new shiny object. Everybody wants to do it. And that's where you step in. You bring in that clarity, listen to them, but you should know enough that you can just do that by just doing a simple rules engine. Everything doesn't need like a deep learning model. Yes, it's fun. It's fun for them to explore that, but it doesn't fit into your product. That's number 3. So yes, communicate, super critical. Just make sure you get that right. Quality focus. I mean, like I said, the unspoken rule. Do not sign off on anything that does not meet your acceptance criteria. You need to make sure that you have an eye for detail. You can catch on things in the customer's journey. You know, when you have your user acceptance or your staging environment, there are things that you will catch that maybe your developers and your QA will not catch as well. Think how you're going to deliver that. Think of how you can get QA teams to perform better. And how do you think you can do that? I mean, if you're building, always make sure they're testing for scale. Always make sure that they're doing in a way that it's agnostic. If you have a platform which is supporting multiple industry, you got to build something that's agnostic and test across all of that. That's the focus you need, quality focus. Number 5 would actually be a subset of this, but I really wanted to put that out separately because reflect and improve is super critical. When you, as a product manager, you're a part of the sprint, you look at things, you need to log in, you need to get into the board, into your DevOps, into whatever board. You need to look at, understand what the capacity is. What's the sprint burn down? You need to understand if the team is burning hours based on prediction. Now, some might argue that it's probably a Scrum Master's job, but it's good for you to know because when you have the retrospective meetings, listen in and try to understand. This is your product they're building. It's important that you understand this part as well. 6, I can't stress enough on drill down and measurement because at the end of the day, you have to have data, you have to have numbers that you're measuring. You have to define that right there in your number 2. Be clear when you're doing your specifications and then start measuring. Measure everything you need to. This can be a session by itself. Won't go into that, but definitely drill down on measurement. And the last important piece is your alignment. The alignment can be through whatever framework. We use something called OKR alignment, and OKRs are all about making sure that we have key results mapped and have joint goals. Have the same goals that you have so you guys can deliver, and then make sure you're incentivizing the team. And as a PM, you have like thousands of tools, but leverage all these frameworks and tools. We often come up with one of our own. Our head of products is really an expert at this, but he always has an adaptation that he comes up with. This one particularly, the last one here, this won't animate for me. It was supposed to be an animation, but this one was something that we used when we were launching our product, the Schema Manager product. After we launched it, we realized that we have too many technical depths. We have defects, but we don't know how to categorize it. And it's not just enough that you're shipping. You need to ship quality, right? Whatever you're giving your folks, you need to give them good stuff. That's when we put this framework together and we decided that, hey, let's map it over here and come up with a priority, a T1, T2, T3. But let's identify what is it that's breaking the product down? What's the defect? What's an engineering infrastructure or infra upgrade item? What will be a disruptive feature that is going to make it into my next quarter? And this helped us give visibility to the team and to the stakeholders. I just wanted to leave you guys with that. I don't know if I have more time. I can keep talking, but I'm done. Okay. Yeah, so this was it. There are many others. You're going to find a thousand.
So yes,
tools.
I realize, Ritika, we are running out of time. Otherwise, we would have loved to hear you more. So yes, you took us inside that entire product setup and showed us the tussle between the product and the engineering teams and how to find a middle ground. Thank you so much for your insights. Questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Apoorv. I work with Swiss Re. So I moved into the project management role. I work as a PO, and I come from a background as a subject matter expert, so I don't have any background or history about learning more about the technical aspects. So you mentioned that you need to learn to communicate to the teams in the technical way. So are there any books or any material which could be referred to in terms of getting that more in-depth understanding about the technical aspects?
I think it depends on the product, but if you're looking at SaaS, then there's always enough documentation, right? I can't think of any book on the top of my head, but yeah. Google is your Bible. Just go there. You'll always find enough. White papers, case study, just read up.
Okay. Any other question?
I did have.
Okay, the lady here.
Hi, I had a question from the 7 points that you mentioned. That's fine. I mean, how do I deal with a situation where one of my teammates, or let's say multiple people in my team, are supposed to be accountable or responsible for something, but they don't have the mindset to co-create, like the lack of commitment example that you said. So how do you deal with such situations?
So I think the only way to do it is, just keep talking, training. There is no
Try to
easy way to
convince
do that,
people.
right? But I've seen that they love to be involved. If you involve them from the inception, and they understand where you want to take the product, you will get a buy-in from them. There were times when I would walk into the room and just announce the vision. That wasn't the way to go. Within our organization, what we've done is we've started doing multiple huddles across different products where we have folks from all disciplines joining in, and that brings in more alignment, hence making it easy to work within that team as well. I don't know if that answered your question,
Yeah,
but we can talk
partially
more
did.
later on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other question? There's one. You can come in the front if you want. Just come. We can't hear you.
So by including everyone in the process, you're referring to building consensus in the team. Isn't consensus-driven management a highway to mediocrity? Because then people tend to accept the lowest common denominator with respect to quality. So what's your take on that?
Well,
That's a topic for a session.
exactly. I'm going to sit with you right after. Okay, we'll talk about this.
Okay, so yes, thank you so much, Ms. Ritika. So we had a very interesting session. 7 speakers. Ritika was the last speaker. We saw products from different perspectives. We saw it from the gamification perspective, data-driven perspective, marketing perspective, Atmanirbhar perspective, mistakes and how to overcome, the tough part of being a product manager from a fresher's perspective.